and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you.
Sandra all the time is here with the cold hard truth. She's the ears and the eyes for me and you. Every day, everyone want to hear from Sandra. And every time on the air, she's getting better. Tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your mama, call Sandra in the morning and in the evening. They always calling Sandra. And when they start fighting, they calling Sandra.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth. Welcome to another episode with more truth-telling, more problem-solving, and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you. Alrighty. Good morning. Happy Hump Day Wednesday. Can you believe it? Can you actually believe that it is now July the 10th? And pretty much, let's call it halfway through the year already. We're going to be on the other side of like this halfway point here shortly. Wow. Where's 2024 going? Can we slow it down a little bit? My goodness. Remember when you were a kid? Didn't it seem like time took so long to pass? Remember from one Christmas to the next? Because the minds of kids, we mark things like Christmas, birthdays. Before you really understand time and dates, you understand events. So yeah, you're like, when's my birthday again, Mom? 4 months. Is that next week? I'm reminded of how children just don't have a real concept of time a lot of times. Like it's just so confusing for them. And so, yes, when's my birthday? 3 weeks? Is that tomorrow? It's like, not quite. Now you're an adult doing adulting things and look at us, time just flying by. You have kids. Next thing you know, they're in kindergarten, out of diapers. That baby stage passes so quickly. And then before long, they're in middle school. And then you're like, what? High school. And then you're thinking about university. And then next thing you know, they're done with university. They got a real job. They want to get married. They want to have kids. OMG. It's a lot. And it just goes by, as they say, in the blink of an eye. And that's why you got to appreciate every single moment, honey child. Every moment. Yep. That's it. Don't let it pass you by now because you're not living in the moment, because you're not paying attention, because you don't know what's going on. You start to see those gray hairs. Somebody yesterday is like, oh, I'm getting more and more gray hairs. I think it's a sun. I chuckled. I'm like, no, honey. That's called the passage of time. We all going that route. Trust me. Some of us are going to keep coloring for another minute or so. But yeah, isn't it crazy how quickly this year has gone? I know I, for one, I'm just like, wow, my birthday again? So my husband had a joke for me yesterday. This is really funny. He said to me, oh, yes. He didn't know what the big deal was about turning 50. I said, when you get there, you'll know. So you're going to do a year of celebrating, but guess what? Come August the 17th, that year is done. So he's counting down the time to my birthday. Not because he's like, we're going to definitely celebrate 51, such a blessing, but because he's like, you know what? We're done. You said that you were going to do 1 year celebrating 50, and I think the year is finally over. What a mess. It's creeping up on me because guess what? That is literally next month, August the 18th, right around the corner, honey Jill. I was telling y'all yesterday, CMR just celebrated 8 years. Can you believe it? I know I can't. It's just wow. 8 years. Where did it go? I feel like it was just yesterday that we were starting things up over here. Like I was just getting started. And I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I told y'all how I kind of started it on a bit of a whim. Like I was just like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of what's going on around here. I'm going to do something about it. And boom, that was it. And then look at us. So blessed. Into year 8. What a thing. Exciting times, I tell you. Gotta love it. All right, let me send out the links to everyone. Good morning to all of our Instagram folks. How y'all doing over there? So I got a couple little updates for you from yesterday's show, and then we do have a guest who's going to be joining us this morning as well. So yesterday, you guys heard the lady that called in about her, this guy owed her money, about some car mix-up. And listen, let me say this. Somebody else messaged me yesterday about a car that he bought, and the car is not working and all sorts of issues. You as consumers, and I'm going to say this because it applies to so many different aspects of our lives. You have got to be smarter than some of you are. Some of you put yourselves in situations that honestly, you should never be in. You know, in law, we have a concept called buyer beware. Yeah? And the Latin phrase, you might hear people say it a lot, caveat emptor. That means that really it is the buyer's responsibility, the consumer's responsibility to do their due diligence before entering into a purchase or entering into a situation, before you enter into a contract. Because you know, when you do certain things like you purchase a used car, you're purchasing it, my apologies, as is, regardless of what the person tells you. So the person can tell you this car is just like brand new and this and that. Listen, get your mechanic to look it over. That's your obligation. You're supposed to do that to protect yourself, because in situations like that, the law will only protect you so much unless there was like severe fraud. And even then, it kind of just depends. The rule of thumb is caveat emptor, buyer beware. You do your due diligence, because once you get into this situation, you're going to be on the hook for it. So, you know, when you run to me and you're like, oh my God, Sandy, this person took my money and they sold me a lemon. The first question I'm going to say, did you try squeezing the lemon? Did you look at, you know, some people spray the lemon to make it look good. Did you rotate it in your hand and squeeze it up and, you know, throw it around and just make sure that it was going to last for what you need it to do? If you're making lemonade, you can't have no spoiled up lemon, honey child. What did you do? That's my first question. What did you do? Those of you who are being scammed by work permits, you know, thieves stealing your work permit money, they don't even put in a work permit for you. Otter, you've been calling me. And I'm becoming less and less sympathetic, because I realize, which I've always known, but why would you trust this person to take out a work permit for you? In what universe was that a good idea? Based on what? They own a legitimate company that you're aware of? And when you start to say to me, well, no, but my friend told me, I'm like, listen, You know, this person does not even have a legitimate company. Why are you thinking that they're going to be in a position to take out a work permit for you and actually get a work permit approved even? Based on what? Well, oh my gosh, my grandson gave him all this money. Yes. But your grandson and people like that are part of the problem. You're encouraging these scammers, right? A person can't be a scammer without victims. And you can't be victimized if you do your due diligence on people. But the problem is everybody's trying to take shortcuts. And through the process of taking a shortcut, then you get scammed and all of a sudden you're upset because somebody took your money and you're a victim. Maybe you should stop trusting people that have given you zero reasons to trust them. I'm just saying. The good news is the lady who called yesterday, I think we misunderstood her because I thought she said she was off island for a couple of years and then she came back. But yesterday she was saying no. So I was, when I spoke to her after the show, I was a little bit confused. But anyway, she, the young man called me. Apparently he was called me a couple times yesterday and I was in court. So as you guys know, I'm watching this McKeeva Bush rape trial. I'm not going to say anything about it until after the trial's over. You can go read the article for yourself. We put up an article yesterday. We'll do another one today. We're closing off the comments because I'll explain to you later why. Most of the time, we don't really close comments, but this case is a little bit different for more reasons than one. We'll talk about it. Don't worry. We'll get there. So, I did speak to him later on in the afternoon, and he informed me that he accepts the responsibility for the situation that he's in. And, you know, he is going to pay her back, and he's committing to restarting his little payment plan because he did pay her some money. And he's going to start paying her $500 a month. I said, okay. No problem. Listen, this is my philosophy when people call me for help and I'm kind of like the intermediary. I'm a mediator. I need to get my official mediation certificate after this, after my CMR career. But I tell them straight up, I said, listen to me, honey child. Do your best to get this monkey off your back. Because that's all this is. When you're in a situation with people, mix up situation, you know what I'm saying? This and that, and you owe them money, and y'all fighting over this, and they call police, and they want their money back, and they're calling CMR, and all this kind of stuff. That's a monkey on your back. And you know, monkeys are hard to shake. Once they grab on, honey child, they're on there for the ride. So my recommendation is to do everything in your power. I just touched on my eyebrows a little bit. Do everything in your power to deal with that situation. I did it without a mirror. Okay, it'll have to do. Do everything within your power to try to resolve the situation as quickly as possible. I hate owing people money. In fact, I try not to borrow. If it ain't the bank, listen, I'm not trying to borrow no money from nobody. Even the bank. I wish I didn't have to borrow money from them too. But you know, it's a relationship. So do your best to deal with a situation. I tell people, help me help you. Help me help you stay off of CMR. Because nobody wants to be putting you on there. You know? Yeah, I'd rather not. But if you don't do what you gotta do, then you end up looking the fool, honey chill. So at the end of the day, I hope that he is sincere. He sounded sincere, but the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. And hopefully he will do what he's got to do. Mm-hmm. Yep. What a mess. Good morning. Everybody's good? 8 years of cold hard truth. Well, we haven't had the cold hard truth, which is a talk show element, for 8 years. Now we're going into that started in 2020. So that's 4 years now. COVID times. Wow, that's 4 years already of that as a daily show. Because we started a little bit before that as a bi-weekly show, Tuesdays and Thursday evenings. And then on radio now, 2 years. Over 2 years. So, yep. Miss Annie says, I'm in the front row of the class today. How many of you were front row students? When you were in class, did you sit in the back? Were you like Johan? Where's crybaby Johan? Were you guys like him? Were you like in the back being the class clown? I was a front row student. I'm going to tell you one of the reasons why. At one point, my eyesight wasn't the best. And I kept telling my aunt, I'm not sure I can see the board properly. So to compensate for it, this was like high school, I would sit all the way in the front and still be squinting like, what's that equation? I can't read that. What is that? What symbol is that? And so I'd be asking people next to me, what did the teacher just write on the board? Oh God, when I finally got glasses, oh my God. I put them on. I remember it just like it was yesterday. I was in Tampa Bay Mall, throwback moment, because Tampa Bay Mall doesn't even exist anymore, right? Where they've used that area now for the stadium, I think, in Tampa. So I was there in Tampa Bay Mall, and I remember going to it was like a lens crafters or something in the mall, got my eye exam done, glasses finally came, and I remember putting them on, honey child, and I put them on for the first time and walked out in the mall, and I was like, oh my God, I've been missing all of this. You don't know how much you're missing when you really need glasses and you don't wear them. Because I could see, I felt like I was seeing for the first time, like signs in the mall. Remember when they used to have the store signs up? I don't think they do store signs like that anymore. They used to actually have them where they came out of the, the store was flush and then they came out. They don't really do signs like that in the mall, do they? I don't think so. I haven't really paid much attention. I got to look next time I go to the mall. So yeah, so I was like, whoa, look at the elevator. Child, I was seeing for the first time. Hi, there's so many things that our children and future generations will never have an appreciation of. I was thinking about this the other day when I was in Miami. Most kids, I think it depends on where they grew up, obviously, but a lot of us go to Florida. They're not going to know what a traditional toll booth looks like. Remember when we used to have to stop? There was maybe it was 5 or 6, depends on how many lanes. And you'd have to go through and there was a person at the toll booth and you gave them money and they gave you change back. Toll booths don't exist anymore. They're all gone. Now that camera, that high-powered camera is just scanning your either your license plate or if you have the SunPass, it's scanning your SunPass. I think parts of New York might still have, do they still have traditional tolls? I'm trying to remember when I went to New York. That's been over a year ago. Did I see any toll booths? I kind of feel like I saw something that looked like a toll booth when we were on the highway. I wasn't driving. So, when you're the passenger, sometimes you're not paying as much attention. Any toll booths in New York? Where's somebody from New York? Damaris, are you here? New York City? Do you guys still have toll booths? But there's so many things that kids will no longer, they'll never even get to experience in their lifetime, which is just so weird. Times are moving so quickly. So I didn't tell you guys much about my trip, which by the way, my other trip, my proper family vacation is coming up here in a hurry. I can't believe it already. In August, we're doing a family trip. And so we did a little mini trip to Miami the other day. I keep telling you all that I want to, now that I'm traveling with a child, I want her to experience something other than shopping. Because, she's like, oh, Mom, you said we can shop till we drop. And I said, well, honey, child, it does not take much for me to drop anymore. A couple hours in the mall and I'm like, ugh, my feet are aching. I'm done for. That's it. So, we try to plan like things to do. Yes. Experiences. So this trip, we were there for a couple days, like shy of a week. And so I did two things that were a lot of fun, other than the usual, because it's like, oh, got to go to Cheesecake Factory, get my favorite drink, my favorite salad. I can probably count the number of times that I've ever had dessert at Cheesecake Factory, because by the time you're done eating, there's no room for that cheesecake. If you don't go there and have the cheesecake first, forget about it. You ain't having no Cheesecake Factory, no cheesecake at Cheesecake Factory. Their food, I find, is so on point. I absolutely love. They have a beet and avocado salad. Try it next time. You guys know I love me a good salad. It is delicious. I love beets on a salad. I don't know what it is about beets in a salad, but I love beets in a salad. And they have this limeade drink, non-alcoholic, very, very delicious and refreshing. What do I normally get? The stuffed mushrooms are good. This time I was like, I'm going to try something different. What did I get? I'm trying to remember. Oh, well, I've had it before. The steak Diane comes with mashed potatoes and like cube steak. Pretty good. Anyway, we went to two things that were different. Number one, we did Key West. In all of my years going to Miami, I have never been to Key West. So I didn't grow up in Miami. So I'm still a little bit like, I kind of know certain areas, and I always use my GPS, but I'm like, when I'm in an area, I kind of a little bit familiar. Like I haven't been to Dadeland and Westland area in like a really long time, because I pretty much just stay in Doral in years. This time I actually went into Hialeah, kind of, I guess, more South Hialeah, so not central Hialeah. But Hialeah has never been an area that I've liked at all. And I know a lot of Caymanians. When I first moved out to the States in the late 1990s, that's where Caymanians primarily went, Hialeah. They were like, oh, Hialeah. And I'm like, Hialeah? When I looked at it as someone who like lived in the state, I was like, ew. What part of Miami is this supposed to be? This don't look too nice. I know, a little bit of a bougie response, but I'm just telling y'all the truth. So I can count the number of times that I even stayed in Hialeah. I'm like, no, we gotta find somewhere else in Miami. This ain't it. For years, I used to stay at a hotel. It was called, oh gosh, I don't even see them around anymore. It's part of a brand, because a lot of these hotels are interconnected. Like Marriott has multiple brands, right? This one was, I feel like it began with a D. What the heck was it called again? Anyway, they were right off of Northwest 57th, which is also Red Road. No longer, the hotel, I don't think, is there anymore. But they had the best. Like when you checked in, they gave you a chocolate cookie that they kept in like a warmer. Oh my God, they were to die for. Like the best chocolate cookie. Was there Doubletree? I think it was Doubletree. Best. Oh my God. I was like, listen, thank you for the warm, when you travel and you're tired. Oh yes, honey child, warm chocolate chip cookie. Hit the spot. So, oh God, I hate Okeechobee area. It's always so confusing in that area. I find it. That's more industrial Miami. Always road works in Miami. So you get lost and your GPS is confused. So a couple of times I had to go to Okeechobee. And one day I turned down the wrong road. Like I turned down a one-way road. And it was like 3 lanes of traffic. They're like, this is morning traffic. They're like, no, wrong way. I was like, shoot, because all of that is construction and like sign is down. They actually had several officers out there during rush hour trying to direct traffic. but my GPS told me to turn left. And I was like, okay, you got to still double check when the GPS is telling you something. Because I turned left in what's now a one-way street. I was like, oops. Thankfully, it was like several lanes and people weren't using the other lanes. So I was able to kind of turn around, do a little U-turn, and the people let me in. They're like, yeah, go back this way. And it was like the next turn. I was like, wow, what a mess. Anywho, so, I got to look at things. I plan ahead, what's happening that week. I look at the Miami calendar and schedule, concerts, all sorts of different stuff that's going on. And then I picked a couple events. I'm going to tell you all about one that I picked that was so much fun. There is a balloon museum. Now, I don't know how long it's going for. So if you're still going to Miami with the kids, go check it out. I don't know what the dates are, to be fair. Go check it out. There was a Bluey play, but the Bluey play, if you're a parent, you know who Bluey is. Bluey and what's Bluey's sister's name again? Oh God, I always forget the characters. Bluey and Bingo. You know who they are if you got kids. Those tickets were expensive. They're like $400 or $500. I was thinking to myself, I don't like Bluey that much to pay that kind of money on tickets. I mean, we still balling on a budget. Hello, Bluey, you coming in a little bit too expensive, honey child. I don't know what I'm going to be seeing from you that is so, exciting. But we went to the museum, the balloon museum, and that was such an interesting experience. So it's an immersive experience where it's very sensory based. Let me read it to you. There's only 3 places in the world that they have it on display. So I think it's London. Hold on. It's London exhibitions. Let me see where. Okay, so no, they have a couple different ones, but the one that we did, which was the Let's Fly one, they have that in Miami. No, wrong one. Wait a minute. Is this the same one? Because they have different people on display. So I think we did the one, Let's Fly. So that's Miami, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. So I think they have Atlanta and New York as well, that they were previously there. So currently it's in Miami, and then it's coming to LA, to Hollywood, and it's coming to San Francisco. And then they've already done New York, and they did New York February to June. And they did Atlanta, like more or less that same time as well. So Miami dates, it goes to October. So you still got time. Take your kids because it is very, very interesting. And you basically walk through the experience. It says art has no limits. The newest theme of the Balloon Museum exhibition is entitled Let's Fly. It's based on the idea of lightness and flight. And we work with the medium of air that allows us to soar high as well as travel to far off destinations. So they look at the opposition between heaviness, darkness, gravity, in contrast with light, weightlessness, and hovering that could be expressed in the artworks. So it was very, very interesting. I'm going to show y'all some pictures. Sometimes pictures don't do things, doesn't quite capture the essence of it all, but nonetheless, I'm going to show y'all some pictures here. So hold on a second. Let me see if I'm going to pull out this tab and then show y'all a little bit of something. So these were pretty cool. Like I had a really interesting experience. I enjoy art. At one point, I kind of felt like I had a bit of an artistic ability. But like most things, if you don't really immerse yourself in it, you don't explore it, you literally lose your talent if you have any. Because I used to draw. I used to love to draw more like kind of cartoons and stuff. But look at the artwork in the museum. Isn't this beautiful? It's like a dragon that is elaborately designed and ornated with a little tea kettle on his back, and then this is like the genie over in the far left. But the genie looks a little bit evil. I don't know what's going on with that genie, honey chill. But these were some of the pictures. It was at the Mana Winwood Convention Center. Never even heard of it. There in Miami, but there you go. Um, so they have things like a mirror room that like it's all this was let me think how I could describe this. This was done with technology, obviously, like different lighting, and it's like glass, but it's like very, very reflective. So that was like super cool. So we walked through all these different areas, pretty cool. Very, very interesting. So like the backdrop, like, look at this, balloons and stuff. Isn't that cool? Like it's so weird to watch it, but it was even more unusual to experience it. So uber cool experiences. Lots of kids. Like it's a very kid friendly event, right? So they had a lot of balloon. Oops, that's people sending me accidents even when I was away. Lots of kid friendly designs, things that they could jump on and they could interact with. So look at this. You can touch it. That's what the immersion experience is all about. So this is the fun stuff. Like different lights and textures, and you can jump on it and you can sit on it and you can do all this amazing stuff. Look, isn't that cool? Look at that. Mhm. These are like balloons in balloons kind of a concept. I mean, kids find this sort of stuff so interesting. They ask me questions like, "How did they do that?" Look at this with like the little eyes and stuff. Um, very, very cool. I'm gonna show you all the ball pit with balloons. That was like a lot of fun. She's like, "I'm cold." Isn't that cool? Go and experience it. It's worth the experience. It's definitely something that you should do. The one was with audio and balloon immersion. So depending on where you stood, the audio, the sounds like change and the music had a different effect based on placement. Mhm. So um, very, very yeah, different than if you stood back and you moved around. And so lots of amazing. This one was really fun. The kids love this. They could actually play around with these suspended kind of balloons. And one thing you want to do with children is you want to teach them up to a certain point, obviously, to be as adventurous as they can be. Like, I think a lot of kids are naturally reserved. And so you want to push them out in the world a little bit. So even things like this, look at the little girl. And you can tell when you have a child that is like, no, I'm gonna just stand on the sidelines of life. And you're like, no, get in there. Don't stand on the sidelines. Try it out. What's the worst that it's going to bunk you in the head? But it's relatively safe. These are safe environments for children to play and to, when they see other people doing it and other kids doing it, they kind of muster up the courage to want to try it themselves. So this was a lot of fun. This is one that was very, very interactive. Then they actually had some of the artists where you could like read about their information and stuff as well. So this one is about the flying maze, and then you actually kind of watch your way through this big balloon maze. But the highlight of the evening, let me kind of skip through these because there was tons of stuff there. The highlight of the evening, look at this. This was so cool. And these moved to the music. So they adjusted themselves based on no, you know what? These were not music. These adjusted themselves based on people on a bicycle. And so you inflated it and opened it up fully when someone was pedaling the bike sufficiently enough. So these were other ones that like you sat on. So the highlight of it for sure was oh Lord, let me scroll through. Oh, this was pretty cool. This was like the tree of life kind of thing, but it was made of balloons and the limbs came down. So everybody took turns. Like there's a whole line because there's like a photo opt where people could just do a little photo underneath this tree of life kind of thing. And it was so pretty cool. And everybody just kind of like sat under it. Right. So let me just fast forward real quick. This was another one that the balloon just kept in the air. So it was like immersed. And you just kept moving it forward or backwards or sideways or whatever. So you could push at it and whatever. You couldn't pull it, obviously, because it has to stay suspended. And then it was like made of charcoal, like those little pins on it are actually charcoal. And you had to put on special shoes to go into this room so that you didn't mess up the floor. So that one was pretty cool as well. Now let me show y'all the ball pit. So they had a huge ball pit. It was so interesting. Let me try to fast forward a little bit here. So these were cool as well. This one was cool. These were cool because they moved around and then you could get pictures like at different angles. So this is the ball pit. So basically, this ball pit was full of balloons. And then the ceiling was like a balloon. And the experience with the lighting and all the people in the ball pit and people like literally the ball pit like ate you up, like people disappearing underneath all of it. And so I'm going to tell you a little cultural story here. It was very, very interesting. You see, people had a great time. It was a lot of fun. You could literally almost go underneath the balls and stuff. See that one guy, you can only see his head. So there were some Muslim women, beautiful women, I must say. I love when they have on their, what's the headgear that they wear? You guys have to remind me of what it's even called. But anyway, they have it on. And so you just get to see the beautiful face. And, they do a lot with their makeup. And I find that they always, whatever parts you can see, which is normally just the face, they do such an amazing job of making sure that it just looks great and it's on point. So it had like different lighting throughout. Like now it's like all red. That's Marlon. You can only see his head a little bit. So when it was time to come out of the ball pit, these Muslim women, it was people crawling out. There they are right there. There's two of them right to the left. You can kind of see them there. They were taking pictures and everything. It was harder to get out than get in. So people in the floor outside of it was very slippery. I didn't get in. So they needed some help. See one right there. And Marlon was like, the Hajib, thank you so much, Sai. Marlon offered to help. Here he is thinking that he's being a gentleman and he's offering these ladies to help. And I had to say to him after we were walking out, I said, Marlon, they're Muslim women. I'm sure that they were actually more insulted by your offer to help than you realize because, you can't touch them like that. I mean, it depends on obviously how strict they are with their Muslim faith. And so, no, you can't help them. I mean, after they told him, no, thank you, I said to them, I said, oh, let me do a group picture for you guys. That was in hurricane stuff. Oh, Lord, people sending me all kind of stuff. So, I was like, let me, I want to show you guys some Key West photos as well really quickly. And then we're going to get into the main part of the show. So, I said to him, just FYI, I didn't expect them to accept your offer because, they're Muslim women and they might actually be offended by the fact that you're asking to touch them. And he hadn't thought about it. He's like, oh, okay. And so I then said, I'll help you guys get out if you want. Because the trick really getting out of the ball pit was to come out backwards. To like go up and then kind of push your butt up and then out. And then you turn around kind of thing. So eventually they got out, but it was so interesting. And sometimes we find ourselves in little cultural moments that we have no clue about. So we went to Key West. Again, we did a day trip. So a bus drove us there and we got to see different aspects of the Keys, the history of the Keys. It's so interesting. We were learning like a little bit about Flagler and who he was and his contribution to the whole Miami area, a little bit of Miami culture and heritage. And it was a rainy day. So at the beginning of the tour, when we got to Key West, it was really raining. And that's like the southernmost part of Florida. There's a place where you can take your picture, the Florida Keys, and it says, this is the southernmost point of the United States of America. Then we toured the Truman, the Little White House, and that was very, very interesting. A retired English teacher, history teacher actually, gave us a tour. Super interesting. But I want to show you guys something. Look at this. This is a statue in Key West. And you guys are not going to believe the man's name. Norberg Thompson. When I saw this, I was like, who? Norberg Thompson? Which Norberg Thompson is that? 1884 to 1951. Obviously not our Norberg Thompson. But I always thought, what an unusual name. And to think that there was somebody else not that far away in Key West who was named Norberg Thompson as well. And this guy, it says that he loved his city and served as its mayor. He devoted his life to aiding and providing employment for its people for over 50 years. Most of his accomplishments were located along the harbor. They included sponging, fishing, shrimping, ice making, a cigar box factory, gourmet turtle soup, figure that one out, pineapple and guava canning, barge and truck lines, etc. So their Norberg Thompson was a businessman and someone who contributed to the community and a big deal. So they have this little monument of him right in Key West, acknowledging his contributions. And of course I had to chuckle. I'm like, didn't know him personally. I'm like, oh, I knew of a Norberg Thompson. So I was taking pictures of these little Hydro Thunder vehicles because I wanted to look those up. But yeah, we did touring and stuff of Key West. I'll tell you guys more about it another day, but it was just very, very interesting. So this is the point. This is a lighthouse hotel. When we eventually got to, this was a little man made out of sponge. That was so interesting. When we eventually got to, look at this kind of statue decoration. When we eventually got to their little White House, the Truman White House, I took lots of pictures. Look at the little parrot of the Truman White House. Oh, that's y'all sending me stuff about the storm. Anyway, it was very, very interesting to see where their former president had kind of set up shop, and he spent some time there, and now they've made it into a museum. And I think it's one of the only museums that one of the only sort of national presidential museums in the state of Florida. So it was very, very interesting to hear how that came about. And while we were waiting to do the tour, I was very, very fascinated by the foliage in like all the beautiful trees in the yard. And of course, because he was president of the United States, he had access to people from India giving him trees, and there was a mango tree there. At first, I was like, what is this? I've never seen anything like this in my life. And the guy's like, oh, that's a mango. And I thought, this is the most unusual mango I've ever seen. It was huge and a little bit of an oblong shape. It doesn't, to me, it does not look like a traditional mango at all. So I wasn't even sure what kind of mango that was. I'll show you guys a picture of it. It had fallen to the ground. Look at this. I was like, what is this? The guy's like, oh, that's a mango. And it is really, really bizarre. But there you go. A very unusual mango. And so the little White House, go and tour it when you go to Key West. Very, very interesting. Built in the 1890s, and it has a whole history of how a private landowner had then acquired it. And of course, the US government at the time didn't realize the significance of why they wanted to keep it as a museum. And then eventually they did and had to buy it back basically from this private guy. So very, very interesting tour. And I saw a breadfruit tree in the yard. And I looked at the breadfruit tree and I said, oh, wow, look at this, a breadfruit tree. Because sometimes you're surprised by the things that you see in Florida. Our tour guide said, what is this tree? We've been wondering what it is. And I said, well, it's a breadfruit tree. And he said, well, what is a breadfruit? And I'm like, I don't know, a breadfruit. I mean, we eat them. And I said, okay, let me think about how to explain something. If you've never seen a breadfruit before, how do you explain it to somebody? I said, well, maybe it's kind of like a potato, but not really like a potato. And I said, well, you can roast them, you can fry them, do you bake breadfruit? You roast breadfruit. I guess you can put them in the oven, kind of bake it. And I said, yeah, we eat it with like things. Kind of maybe like a side dish, like a potato. You can do breadfruit salad, like a potato salad. And he was like, oh, because we see the tree here and we see these things on this tree and we don't really know what it is. I'm like, yeah, I kind of chuckled because I'm like, that's a breadfruit tree. So very, very interesting. Anyway, we had a fabulous time. I'll go back again. I said to myself, you know what? I wouldn't mind maybe on one trip actually just staying in Key West. It has a very smallish town feel to it. All right. Travel. Number one, travel, see different places, see different things, experience different things. And also, please have experiences, not just shopping. Listen, I love to shop. I love a bargain shopping. I love to get a good deal. But really just have experiences, especially when you have children. So Melita says, I love Key West. Did you go to the Cheesecake Factory? Well, there isn't one in Key West. But listen, little did I know that one of my favorite desserts, I love a key lime pie. One of my favorite desserts was actually first made in Key West. That's apparently where he gets his name from, key lime pie. I'd never even thought about it. And so there was a little shop there that says the home of the key lime pie. And I took a little picture in front of it. And then I said, well, let me try your key lime pie to see how it stacks up. Meh, it was not the best that I've had. It was all right, but I'm very picky about my desserts now. If I'm going to waste all those calories, you better come good. So I can tell you that the best key lime pie that I've ever had in my entire life is actually in Tampa. So my trip that I have coming up is going to be a Tampa trip. And I don't know if the restaurant is still in Hyde Park. I can't remember what the restaurant was called, but if it's still there and you still have key lime pie on the menu, I am coming, honey chill. So yes, go check it out. Morning, Miss Yulene. Melita says you should have told him that Mr. Henry Bush. You should have told him what Mr. Henry Bush told the tourists. We eat them. We don't spell them. The breadfruit tree. Evelyn says, oh yes, key lime pie is my favorite. Really? I don't find a lot of people like key lime pie, but it's a certain flavor. Faith says that reminds me of the Candytopia in New York. I have got to do a New York trip again. There's so much to see with New York. It's just huge. So we did the whole Times Square thing, but I want to see more. And I want to see the outskirts of New York more. All right. Got a guest waiting. So let's go ahead and get to some serious business this morning. Thank you guys so much. We have none other than the Honorable Mr. Wayne Panton, MP for the beautiful district of Newlands, where I used to live, right around the corner. For many, many donkey years, you'd say. I lived in Newlands, and so Mr. Panton is the representative for Newlands, and we welcome you to the program again. Good morning.
Good morning, Sandra. I have to say I haven't had any breakfast, and you sitting there talking about my favorite dessert as well, which is key lime pie.
Really?
Yeah, let me tell you, the days of when you could go to Wholesome Bakery and get that key lime pie straight out of their little display there, with the
you're freezing, and I don't know if it's me. Let me switch my network here. Hold on.
In the meringue, which was what do they call it again? Caramelized. Oh my gosh!
Can you guys hear him? Because he's actually frozen for me. Okay, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Oh, there we go. All right, you're back. Tell me your key lime story. You said the days of.
Yeah, I was saying it took me back to the days of when you could go down when we still had Wholesome Bakery, and you could go down there and get one of those, a slice of that incredible key lime pie that they used to make there. You know,
Oh,
the
they
one
had
with
it here. Oh my gosh, I've never
that
had it.
nice. They had the nice well, yeah, it's key lime pie, lemon meringue, all these things. To me, they're all the same thing, but delicious stuff. I don't like. I like the one with the meringue on top with the, you know, the little caramelized tips and stuff. Anyway, just making me hungry right now. But
I know, and of course, we should not be having key lime pie for breakfast.
Yeah, but you know,
Ferrari boy says
I got
key lime. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, he says key lime pie was invented at Sugarloaf Key. If it's green, it's not real. No. This isn't that key lime pie. This is the real stuff. Johnny Dork Morning 345 says Crow's Nest key lime pie was the shizzle. They had. I know. I've never.
Yeah, that was good too.
I can't recall having had key lime pie like in Cayman that I can remember. But anybody has it now? Maybe I should go somewhere for lunch and have key lime pie. Yeah, I remember where Wholesome Bakery was, because when I first moved back in 96, I think the bakery was still there. And then it disappeared in the early 2000s, maybe. Because I do have this memory of my dad. He was the worst with leaving his car running. He used to do it all the time. And he used to go to Mr. Norberg's bakery. Speaking of Norberg Thompson, he used to go there and just park in the front, leave the car running, go inside, get a patty or whatever it was that he fancied. And he had a real sweet tooth. And you know what he used to like was the custards. He would actually make the little custard cups, and he loved him a custard. But yeah, I mean, key lime pie, who knew? There you go. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I can find that restaurant still in Tampa and Hyde Park. Like I said, I can't remember what it was called, but they might still be there 30 years later. Who knows? All right. Ferrari Boy says, fact, there's no key lime farms. Where did the limes come from? I have no clue. All right. Mr. Panton, you're looking nice and fresh this morning. I heard you were a little bit under the weather. I must say, by looking at you, I wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah, thank you. Let me tell you, I am definitely feeling a lot better and very relieved. You know, I had my second incident with COVID, unfortunately. You know, in the days running up to Beryl, you know, that we had a lot of activity around the office and came into contact with a lot of people, and unfortunately, one or more must have had COVID at the time. So I unfortunately picked it up. I wasn't very sick in terms of, you know, the length of time, but for the period of time that I did feel unwell, which was about a day and a half, it wasn't an enjoyable experience. Massive headaches, and you know, even having to even ending up throwing up because of the headaches. But yeah, but you know, it's just one of these things. We gotta.
Yeah.
I keep kicking myself for not taking the latest COVID
the booster.
Which as soon as I'm able to after this infection, I'm definitely going to do, because it absolutely works. I mean, I had the first infection, I think, about the middle of 22, and I hadn't had it since. And I know I've been around quite a few people who had it. Yeah. So
and
anyway,
it's definitely going
beyond
around.
That now, and kicking and going again. So
yeah, no, and it's definitely going around, because yesterday I stopped into a doctor's office, and the first thing they did after I rang the ring doorbell, before they let me in, they said, "You have any respiratory symptoms?" And I said, "No." I said, "COVID's going around again." And they said, "Yep." Yeah. So put on your mask and come on in. So yeah, I mean, you know, the booster shots are obviously available if people wish to take them. But COVID is very much alive and still circulating in the community. Obviously, you know, people are still dying from it who have comorbidities, but a lot of people now have some degree of immunity, whether it was naturally acquired because of a previous infection, or if they've been immunized as well. So I may do a booster shot. I've been doing some of my vaccines Outside of that, I did my first shingles shot. So again, I want to invite people to contact the HSA based on your age, inquire about what vaccinations you may need. Some things like tetanus every 10 years, you should get those. And coming into hurricane season, that is something that you want to get it done before you actually need it, right? So it can be very, very helpful to make sure that you're fully vaccinated against things that are in circulation. So I'm so glad to have you on the program. We've had you on here in most recent times, really focusing on the National Conservation Act, the National Conservation Council, and what we understand are some proposed changes. Now, again, you know, we kind of say this not fully being cognizant and aware of what the changes are that the government is proposing. There are people who are commenting about your COVID thing. One young lady says, I haven't had COVID yet. Another person says, I've had 4 shots of the COVID vaccine. Other people in my household brought COVID home 3 times, and I didn't get it once. Wow.
Yeah. No, it works. It works. People should take the opportunity to get the vaccine.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. So we're confused about the National Conservation Act because we don't really know what changes are coming. And in fact, from Friday's press conference, at one point we thought no change was coming, and then we're confused. So listen, I played around with this last night. You guys know I'm not any kind of professional videographer or editing person, but I did play around with the premier's response, because first she said, nope, no changes. And we thought she answered the question. And later on, she only said that she answered 1 of 2 questions around. It was confusing, but look at my little video that I put together. Some of you might find it interesting.
Really hot Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. That's getting hotter. We're going to have probably a lot more storms this year. So can you tell the public why you all feel that this is an appropriate time to remove the scientists from the National Conservation Council or weaken the National Conservation Act in any way, given the mitigating measures the limited mitigation measures that it offers us for, protecting ourselves against future storms?
I can answer that quite easily. Thank you, Wendy, for your concern always on environment. It's admirable and appreciated.
Thank you.
The answer to that is quite easy. I don't even have to think about it because we're not doing it.
Thank you.
So that's an easy fact check. You heard it from me.
Fantastic.
Why the you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God. Stop lying.
A few moments later.
Yeah, so just to follow up and make sure I understood correctly, did the Premier say just a second ago that there were going to be no changes to the conservation law under this administration? Is that what she was saying, and why that change of heart? And do we think then that there needs to be anything else done to protect wetlands and that balance between development and the environment, given the kind of drainage and storm resilience role that some of those natural features perform for the Cayman Islands?
2 seconds later.
You did not hear me say that.
Oh, rascal.
Secondly, the question from Wendy was whether I was going to remove the scientists. Again, that was not the situation, so that was easy to respond to.
Well, thanks for clarifying, because I was a bit confused by your answer earlier.
Okay, so I'm glad I'm not the only one confused. Have you heard, I mean, obviously you're still a little bit connected, I guess, to some of these guys. Do you have any insight, Mr. Panton, into what the proposed changes are, other than what you've heard floating around in the media?
I don't have any direct insight. They have done a pretty good job of at least not talking to me about it. not sharing any information with me in any way. That's not a surprise. But I have heard certain information because, as has always been the case, there are so many that like to talk and brag to their friends. So the information eventually gets back. But I also have a very good understanding of the areas in which they would likely try to have a go with it. So, none of it. Whenever we see whatever it is, if we do, they're planning to do, I don't think it's going to be a surprise to me, because I have a long standing involvement with this legislation, as you will recall. And I have a pretty good idea of where the areas are that they will try to target, because I think it's not hard at all to work through that and figure out exactly what it is they want to do. So, for example, they would love to be able to eliminate the ability of the National Conservation Council to say that an environmental impact assessment is something that is appropriate to do in a particular situation, a particular application, because of the significance of the size of the project and the significance and scope of its impact, and that it would need additional information that the Department of Environment or any other agency of government wouldn't have necessarily offhand, to be able to contribute to that decision. And at the end of the day, an environmental impact assessment is not a decision in itself, and it is not something that makes a decision for you. It provides information. It will provide the necessary information, the best possible information for you to make the best and the most informed decision to end up with the best possible result. And that is something that I know that they would love to be able to remove that from a process where the scientists and those with that level of experience in relation to the various disciplines that may be relevant, they want to remove it from their ability to say, we don't have enough information, we need more information, and just give it to the politicians or give it to cabinet to say, no, we can dispense with this. The other element is that they would like to remove that altogether from the ambit of government. So they would like to be able to say that no government project is required to have an environmental impact assessment, which, it's astounding in this day and age. It's astounding in the current regimes of fiscal responsibility, requiring value for money, requiring the best possible outcomes for the country, and the best possible chance of success for a particular project, without negatively impacting society, without negatively harming our economy, and certainly without negatively or unduly harming the environment. In all those contexts, to suggest that you wouldn't want somebody else telling you when you need to get additional information or not is just astounding to me. It is astounding that anybody would think that represents good governance, that represents fiscal responsibility at the end of the day, because you may end up wasting your money altogether because you may not get the results that you're trying to achieve. Alternatively, you may end up having to spend a lot more money to remedy problems that were caused by going ahead without getting all the necessary information, and all the relevant information that could lead you to make the best possible decision. So it's really astounding to me that anybody would want to consider that. But I know that's something that they have considered, you know, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's unique to this particular construct of government and the leadership there. It certainly happened in the past. Back in 2018, I think it was 2018 when, you know, the former premier Sir Alden made a comment in Parliament, or Legislative Assembly as it then was, that it was ridiculous that the requirement for an EIA applied to government projects. Now that to me was, you know, was astounding to hear that suggestion coming from him. Absolutely astounding. I mean, this was somebody who back in 2014 said, you know, that the East-West Arterial was not going to be done without the most stringent environmental impact assessment being carried out. You know, maybe at the time it was proposed that a third party would actually build the road and not government. So how he would work out and square, you know, that circle of it's okay to require that for a private sector entity, but not for government, doesn't make any sense to me at all. You know, government should still be, in fact, government is even under a greater imperative to ensure value for money and ensure that we get the best possible results. So to me, it's a huge, you know, good governance issue. It's something that goes all the way up to me to, you know, to the governor, because she's responsible for ensuring that what is reflected and done within the country and in the laws in the country represent good governance as well. So, yeah, it's a huge concern that these types of things, this magnitude of foolishness would be considered.
Couple comments, you know, coming
and if the question is it a government thing or is it for somebody else?
Tracy says, when the premier said we are not doing it, do you think she meant to say I'm not going there and discussing it? No, that's not what she meant at all. I mean, she attempted to answer the question, but I agree with Damien's analysis here. And Tracy, I don't know if you saw Monday's show, but we kind of did a deep dive, and, you know, feel free to kind of go back to the show about exactly what it was that she was saying. But it was clear based on the follow-up question from James Whitaker of Cayman Compass and her subsequent response to that she actually only answered part of Wendy's question. Now, I don't know if she didn't hear the second part, but it was actually a two-part question. And she did, in my opinion, answer it very, very vaguely. And I think that was intentional, because this would have been a perfect opportunity for her to just be very straightforward with her constituents and the entire country which she is representing, and say what those proposed changes are. Why is it that she has never, I mean, this is the second press conference that they had in the past week surrounding Hurricane Beryl. So she was right before the people. This is something that is of grave concern to a lot of members of our community. I'm a bit confused as to why she has not made some sort of a public statement addressing this. I don't understand it. It's just confusing. What's the secrecy? Why are we hiding? And you know, what's the government's actually doing? What's the point? Government should be straightforward and accountable to the people, but in order for us to know what's going on, we need to have accurate information. So while she's taking jabs at people talking about the Gab Road, none of us would be gabbing or having to be on the Mall Road if she would just tell us what's actually going on in the country. So Ms. Pat says data-driven decisions are vital to all of us. Zelfa, good morning, says Port of Calls had an awesome key line. Oh, thank you. Where's Port of Calls? I don't even know where that is.
Port of Call, it's where the wharf is now. The original restaurant was called Port of Call.
Damien says deterring abuse of public office or misappropriation of government funds. We have a number of big projects. I understand that this week, and all Cayman Brac residents should be paying attention. Tomorrow, there's a meeting there in the Brac about Port Zeus. And so another massive project that required an EIA. So one of the very few projects that required one. And I think you guys, I understand that's now making some headway, that if you're a Brac resident or anybody who's interested, you should definitely find a way to go to that meeting tomorrow. I don't know the exact location of the meeting, but so many organizations, entities, young people, middle age, older folks, Caymanians, non-Caymanians have come out and said, we do not support any changes to the National Conservation Law that are not meant to strengthen it. And of course, the presumption is that that's not happening. And so that it would actually, quite a matter of fact, be the opposite. And whatever changes are coming down the pipeline are changes that would, suffice to say, weaken the legislation and potentially weaken the council itself. So 936-2626, the phone lines are open.
Yeah.
Can we back up
I
a little
think,
bit?
Sandra, the reality is that based on everything that we have been hearing coming out of the government, through whether it's unofficial or official channels, it seems that there is this significant rift within the government on this issue. And it also seems very specifically that the minister is not, Catherine Ebanks Wills, is not in agreement with bringing any amendments as proposed to the NCA. I am sure that if what was being proposed was a bill to strengthen provisions of the National Conservation Act and to make it more effective in terms of what the people of the country would like to see, she would be more than happy to do it. But I imagine that you know, if that's not the case and she doesn't agree with it, and doesn't seem to intend to bring the bill herself, then I don't quite understand why is it that the Premier isn't stepping forward to say, well, this is my government, and if I believe in this, I should do this.
Right.
But that video that you just showed of the press conference was the first time that I've actually seen that. I had heard that, I had it relayed to me as to what was said. That was the first time I'd actually seen it. Unfortunately, I was well into the throes of feeling very sick from COVID at that time. So I didn't watch it at all. But you know, I noticed there are comments about answers being vague. That was not an attempt to give a vague answer. That was an attempt to give a very definitive answer, which was intended to dispel any further intention or discussion around it. So
we do have a caller in the line.
I would feel that was an attempt to mislead the people on that issue.
All right, caller, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Sandy.
Morning,
I know
dear.
you were talking about the conservation law, but coming back to those cones that were on the 7 Mile beach that everybody was up and gung-ho when they had them removed. Now, what is the NRA doing about making it safe for the people that is entering the road from these condos? Because I'm a Caymanian. I'm about a 7 or 8 generation Caymanian, and I feel that the reason why they made these people remove these cones was because they were like a even thing.
Mr. Dexter, can I just pause you there? Because I do want us to, we have very limited time today. Remember, the show ends at 9:30. And so we do have Mr. Panton here to speak specifically on this. But if you can send me some, send me some information on WhatsApp, like your question, and maybe open mic opportunity, we can tackle it.
Morning, Mr. Dexter.
Maybe I'll wait until Friday.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, just a quick reminder that I'm not going to be here tomorrow because I'm going to go to the opening of the Health City's new location there at Cayman Bay. They're having the official ribbon cutting ceremony. So Damien says it's top secret. Jonathan says non-existent. where Pat says, where is the public consultation on these changes? So I want to ask
Well, that's
that
a very
question.
good point there.
That's a great question. So where is it? And how do I mean? And I'm hearing that there is a way to actually circumvent the public consultation process. How is that even possible?
You either have public consultation or you do not. As I've said to the country previously, I reminded the country, this particular piece of legislation had extensive public consultation, and we went to every single district, and I think West Bay we went twice. And I can't think of any other piece of legislation that has had the that type of consultation. And there was consultation prior to that as well in the run up to when I had responsibility for the bill. So the suggestion that we shouldn't have public consultation and a decent, we have a constitutional provision which says 28 days, right, at a minimum, before you bring a bill to Parliament. 28 full calendar days, and many times it's more than that. And an issue that is typically controversial, you usually want more time to be able to for people to understand. But that is not that. It appears to me, based on the rumors that I'm hearing and the information that seems to be coming out of different quarters, it appears that they would like to try to find, because I've heard the same point you were just making about some kind of a shortcut. The only shortcut that I'm aware of that constitutionally is possible is for the Premier to sign off on a shorter period of notice than the 28 days specified in the Constitution. Now that is a discretion that the Premier has. But at the end of the day, you have to balance the exercise of that. Like I've always said, every power that's given is given with a purpose in mind, and you've got to exercise that power for an appropriate purpose. And you have to balance, the need to proceed with all haste, versus the right of the public to understand what is being done. And I don't see, in this case, I see no justification whatsoever for any short notice in respect to this. So I would not, I would personally reject any suggestion that there's any justification at all for that provision to be properly exercised, or that discretion to be properly exercised by the Premier in this case. So we'll see what happens. I mean, there seems to be a lot of very unusual activity around this. There's lots of rumors. There's information that is coming out of different quarters and different angles, and I hear things from people in the street come up to me and say, this is what I've heard. I don't know where it's coming from, because like I said, I don't get any, and certainly the parliamentarians haven't had any opportunity to consider it. We've had the opposition saying that they haven't seen any of the changes, or haven't had any changes discussed with them. If that is correct, then I can certainly confirm that is the case with myself as well. So this really only heightens the concern that I've had all along in relation to this particular piece of legislation. I have said in the past, and I have no issue with repeating it, that this particular piece of legislation and what they intend to do around that is directly related to and is part of what I call a corrupt initiative, because it is not to serve the interests of the people of this country. It is not because they have identified a problem or problems which make it unworkable. It is because certain special interests in the country want the laws and the provisions changed because it's inconvenient to them for some reason, in one way or another. They don't, whether it's they don't like to have a woman who is intelligent, who is experienced, who is articulate, and who can, stand up and has the backbone to stand up to ridiculous arguments, giving them advice, or whether it's they just don't want the science being applied to the issue and the question because it's inconvenient. It doesn't matter why there is that motive. What matters is that there is an improper motive behind this. And I'm telling you, kudos to anybody in government who is standing up for good governance, who is standing up for what is right, and who can see that this has an improper motive.
All right.
I congratulate anybody in government who is standing against this. And I'd like to, it will, I hope, ideally, I would like to have for the Premier's statement that carte blanche, it wasn't going to happen, nothing was going to change. I would like to have for that to have been correct.
Yeah,
but clearly,
we already saw literally within seconds of saying it, she started to backpedal and said, "Well, no, I was only answering one of two questions," and she never even acknowledged the second question, which was, "Is anything going to be done to weaken the legislation?" So Damien says the vague answer was an attempt to mislead and avoid. Jonathan says it was the act of a pathological liar who's not used to being held accountable. Johan is asking if we're getting any overtime today. Damien says, now, is this for a project on Grand Cayman or the Brac or both? So I do want to play a video here, but let me ask you this. What projects does government have on the assumption that they're going to make the change that government itself does not have to be subjected to any EIAs? What are some of the projects that we know that government has in the pipeline and that they're thinking about? So we know, for example, there's the Brac School, a $50 million press project. There is the East-West Arterial, which is obviously the biggest project that the government would have ever undertaken and could have some very detrimental and shocking environmental impacts. We've got a potential port project that is still being floating around. I actually heard a little birdie told me yesterday that this government has, of course, no verification on this, but this government has decided to have a referendum on the question of whether or not we should go ahead and build the cruise berthing facility there in Georgetown. So that's potentially still on the table. What other projects are we talking about the government has in the pipeline?
You're asking me that?
Yes.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, if you ask me, is there a single project that I think this is particularly relevant to? I will tell you, yes, it is the port relocation that is, I think, most relevant in this case.
Okay.
And let me just give you a brief outline of what that's likely to entail. That is likely to entail having a channel cut through the breaker's headland, which would, in order to allow the kinds of shipping to provide the kinds of safety, it would have to be probably 300 feet, 250 to 300 feet wide at a minimum. And it would have to come inland, well in behind the natural beach ridge, storm ridge that has developed over centuries and thousands of years to protect the interior of the island. They would propose to connect up all of these various marl pits that exist behind there at the moment, and that is an opportunity to, if that's a project that they're doing, that's an opportunity to excavate a huge amount of fill, and they would then turn that into an interior basin. The problem, which would form an interior sort of inland sort of port. Now you have all kinds of issues with that. That would be a massive project. It would have massive environmental implications. It would have massive implications for the people of the Eastern Districts. Because if you think that we have traffic problems now, even with an east-west arterial built and in place and operating, we're going to be back to zero. Trying to operate, having a port from there, and it comes back as well to a big central question: what do we, the people of this country, what do we want our country to look like, and do we need something like that? All of these questions are critically important. Now, what work has been done to assess whether we need to have something of such incredible implications under consideration? Now, anybody that is familiar with and has access to the government lands information system can go back over time and see who has been purchasing land around this area. And you will see some very familiar names, right? And it doesn't take a lot of digging to see some of it. So,
I mean, I understand even some current MPs are part of companies along with former MPs and ministers of government, part of companies and, developers, I guess is what I'm calling.
I don't know about current MPs, but I know there's at least one company that I've seen which involves former MPs, which is relevant. Let me put it that way.
Yes.
To the discussion. But I want to just say this: if you see something like that done, unless they're going to pump out all the water and plaster those walls and turn it into the world's biggest swimming pool, you are going to have salt water intrusion into every nook and cranny on the interior of this island. Not just brackish water, but salt water intrusion. And you're going to imperil every one of the freshwater lenses that exist in the eastern side of this country, maybe even the western side as well. So I can't, the Water Authority under the Water Authority Act have the ability to say no to any project which is going to have that kind of impact. But the government has the ability to change the board and put on whoever they want as well. So how long would any kind of resistance to that stand up? I don't know. But what is absolutely for certain is that the impacts of a project like that would be extensive. It wouldn't just be environmental. And to consider doing a project like that without a full environmental impact assessment, which is done independent of government, which is done without government, managing it or tweaking it or directing less of this and more of that or less of everything, to end up with a report which is perhaps missing the substance of the issues that are relevant to a matter like that would be a crime beyond all proportions against the interests of the country. And those are the kinds of things that I am particularly concerned about. If you have the ability to for government to say an environmental impact assessment doesn't need to be done in that kind of context, or doesn't need to be done in the context of extending the Owen Roberts International Airport runway out into the North Sound by 1,500 to 2,000 feet. I mean, that again is just something else that just defies belief. Environmental impact assessments are things, are mechanisms and processes that have developed since back in the 70s, early 70s, and is now a part of, even commercial, private commercial financing transactions or financing arrangements. They normally, the lenders normally require environmental impact assessments to be carried out, because they want to make sure that at the end of the day, you get the best possible result, and it delivers, the project delivers what was promised. if we don't do that, if we were at a stage in this country where we're going to remove the requirement to have environmental impact assessments for critically important infrastructure, which costs a tremendous amount of money to the public purse, then I have no idea. Whoever wants to support that can be off on their own, because I won't support it. And I believe that there are people in government currently who do not want to have that on their record either. So I am hopeful that they will stand up to it and say, no, this is not right. These types of changes that are being proposed to try to eliminate the application of science and data and proper analysis to these types of projects to get the best possible outcome, to minimize your cost overruns, and to minimize or hopefully eliminate the possibility that down the road you might have to make some changes because you didn't do it right to begin with. To be in that situation is unacceptable for any country.
All right, let's read a few comments here.
I didn't think banana republics these days want to go for that.
Jonathan, think of some projects that could apply. He said apply cruise berthing facility, bulk cargo facility, schools being built as vanity projects. Damien says the extension of the Owen Roberts International Airport. Johan says, Auntie Sandy, what did you say about a cruise berthing terminal? Does the current government not understand that the proposed project was the undoing of the PPM in 2019? Damien says the water table is affected drastically. Water lens. Ms. Pat says, what about affordable housing for Caymanians? And what's the strategic plan to prevent these developments from becoming ghetto? I don't know that falls under EIA, but Eunasis, good morning, says what we the people are going to look like in the new Cayman is going to be homeless and living in the roads with this ridiculous pricing. Damien says it will kill all the wildlife. Flaw says, cannot the road be built in pillars?
Yeah. Can we just very clearly say here that the discussions around EIA or EIAs and the East-West Arterial, East-West Arterial is subject to an EIA, and the EIA is pretty much complete in respect to that, as far as I can tell. No, it hasn't gone through all of the necessary steps, but I certainly pounded the table enough to get it moving and get it done, which cannot be said for anybody in the past two governments, because they had so much time. We could have done this thing. We could have done 5 or 6 EIAs, and this road could have been built 2 or 3 times, right? But they didn't want to do that. This is a reflection of the intent behind some of these changes to the NCA. They don't want to do it because they think it's inconvenient, because they think they know better. I mean, I know there are times when people think that I'm criticizing the members, either the board or the executive, the employees of the National Roads Authority, for example. I am not criticizing them at all. I admire the work that they do. I think they're really committed. The director is a gentleman, and they all work hard. I'm not saying they don't make mistakes at times. Clearly they do. But this is one of the reasons why you need to make sure you do things properly and you follow a process that's going to give you the best result, so that you avoid the mistakes, which we're all capable of making at times. But I want to make sure that it is clear when I criticize what has happened in relation to the EIA and the East-West, I'm not going after the NRA staff. I'm going after the political directorate. I'm going after the people around them and the consultants who have been preventing this from happening. You Sandy, you listed and went into some detail with the chronology of events for the past 15 or 20 years in relation to this, and I know you still have that document.
Yes.
It is very clear that it wasn't the NRA saying we're not going to do this or that. It was people who were working for the NRA and people who are connected with the political arm. And it is just a terrible example of a lack of political commitment to doing things in the right way to get the best possible result for our people. They have tried to pin the delay of the NRA on me, on the delay of the East-West on me. I was premier for 2.5 years. I was minister between 2013 and 2017, telling the then government, you've got to do an EIA to get this done. And you don't want to do it without it because the potential implications are too great to make a mistake. But it didn't happen. We had a minister who was there for 4 years as Minister of the Environment. We seemed to have a government at the time who was interested in getting things going, but they've never committed any funding to it, and they didn't take the opportunity to get the thing done when they had those opportunities. And now you have that same minister who it is rumored who is likely to be bringing the bill in place of the minister with constitutional responsibility to bring an amendment to the NCA. That will be very interesting because that will tie the whole thing together very nicely. We'll see how that goes.
All right.
Anyway,
Yes, let's have a look.
Arterial, that needs to be moving forward. That the EIA is basically just about complete on that. I think the holdup has been the studies being done by the NRA itself, and we need to get that done. There are other things that can be done as well. Right now, we only have one single lane going east from Savannah. One single lane. Now, I think we're there. I think we're in that disastrous situation for the people from East End. Sorry, let me just start. People in Boddentown West, Boddentown East, North Side, and East End. We're in that situation and impacting them because politicians in the past have played games and not done the right thing, not done what they should have been committed to doing. I mean, there is no. I'm not aware of any specific funding put in place to start doing even half of the East-West Arterial as it is now. But the truth is, I would prefer to just see them, at least for the time being, make some progress, get somewhere with it. All
right, let's look at a few questions. Pat says it would be a crime against our country. Floss Boss says EIAs are usually the wanted outcome of whoever pays for it.
Well, I would hope that's not the case, because that's why you have reputable, independent people who are paid to do these various assessments and studies. Is it possible that somebody could game it and pay some corrupt provider? It's possible, but the way you address that is to make sure that the process is tight and make sure that the process is reviewed by as many eyes as possible, and there's a public tender process. That's why we have the Public Procurement Act, or the Procurement Act, procurement law. I can't remember what it's called right now, but we have all of the procedures in place around trying to make sure that we get the best possible result and avoid issues of potential corruption.
All right, Anthony says that you're becoming to sound negative against anything that requires development. Is there any government projects that Mr. Panton is in support of? All his
yeah, Sandra. I don't know whether Anthony was on just now.
Yes.
But I've said it multiple times, and I'll say it again. I support getting the East-West Arterial Road or extension done properly with the proper EIA in process in place, which advises the NRA and all the agencies around government who are involved exactly what the risks are and how to mitigate those risks or eliminate them if possible. So I have no idea what he's talking about, suggesting that I'm not in support of any projects. I am in support of sustainable development. We need sustainable development in the country. What we do not need is speculation that we are going to, if we build it, they will come. Because that, we seem to have a propensity to dream on some massive scales around here without actually working out whether it's for the benefit of the people of this country. If you know, a port that is being proposed in breakers, an inland port like that is not necessarily in the interest of this country, unless the people of this country are happy with the population being 300,000 or more. Right?
Denver
So
says,
let's figure it out. Let's
Yeah.
decide. We should all have a voice and a say in what happens in this country and where our country ends up, rather than having politicians behind closed doors and those people who come along with proposals that don't get aired publicly, you know, having an input into it.
Yeah, Denver says the following: there's a reason our capital is moved from Bordentown to Georgetown, and thus our harbor created by the elders of these islands. Our port and cruise piers can be built in Georgetown, yet you, sir, fought against our port.
Denver, I didn't fight against anything. I asked, when I was minister, my position was an EIA had to be done so that we had a very clear understanding of what was being discussed and proposed. Do I think that the port in Georgetown, a cruise port in Georgetown, as had been proposed, is a good idea? No, I don't think so. I do not think so. I think the cost of it is far too great in terms of the benefits that we get from it. But do I support the cruise industry? Yes. Do I support it at all costs? No.
All right, caller, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Boy, Sandy, I noticed you still got me blocked from your Facebook. But anyway, this is Jonathan speaking again. But you see, this is why I say that my bridge is a 10 times better idea than that east-west artillery road. Like, to me, I think an east-west artillery bridge, it will knock an east-west artillery road out of the park. Hear me out. Let me ask you something, Sandy. Do you know how much sand there is from the top of the sand bed to the bedrock in the North Sound?
No.
Do you, Mr. Premier, do you? Or
What was your question?
How much sand
do you know how much sand there is from the top of the sand bed to the bedrock in the North Sound, going across the North Sound?
Well, I don't think anybody knows the answer to that without extensive assessments.
Oh, nobody would know. Okay, then. So then, Sandy, can I ask you a question? So since you've been to the Florida Keys or Key West, you've obviously been over the Mid-Bay Bridge in Florida, correct?
Yes, the 7-mile long bridge.
Yes, correct. That's the one I'm talking about. And then what's your gripe with my bridge over the North Sound?
So your position is because Key West has done it, Cayman should follow suit and do it.
No, I'm talking. No, not only that. I'm saying that you see in Cayman with our overdevelopment, we are putting the cart before the horse without a road to put it on. You understand what I'm saying? I'm saying that we're going too fast with our overdevelopment. I'm saying that we need proper road infrastructure before the development comes. Because if we put the development ahead of the road infrastructure, people are going to be stuck in traffic for years. Forget hours.
What?
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
if.
mean,
And
you've
then
kind of
don't get me wrong.
changed course here because you called talking about this bridge that you're proposing in the North Sound to be
Yes.
built as a solution to what we're talking about today is EIAs and the requirement to have
Yes.
EIAs. What does your bridge have to do with an EIA?
Well, my
You're saying
point
your
is-
bridge would be built without an EIA?
No. I would love to have an EIA on it, right? It's just that I don't like the fact that you keep on knocking it down and you don't even know the EIA report on it. You know why? Because there's never been an EIA report.
But there is an EIA report on it because the National Roads Authority says that bridge is wholly unrealistic. Why won't you accept?
How is it unrealistic when you don't even know how much sand there is between the top of the sand bed to the bottom of the bedrock in the North Sound? How is it unrealistic?
Well, the experts have already said that that's not something that is even remotely on the radar.
But again, I ask, what expert if there's never been an EI report on such a project?
Because they haven't gotten that far. They haven't gotten that far in the process. But even from a preliminary perspective, they have said putting a bridge on the North Sound in the North Sound makes no sense. That's what they've said. I'm just telling you what they've said.
But who says this?
The National Roads Authority and the people
The
that they've
National
spoken to.
Road Authority says that. I really don't believe that because, a bridge over the North Sound brings so much more benefits than just the bridge alone. One, it dismisses all the traffic coming from east to west. You could get from East End to West Bay right there in front of Commander Bay within 20 minutes going over that bridge. One, I don't think anybody would have any problem paying to say a $3.50 toll going over that bridge to bypass 2.5, 3 hours of traffic every day. I don't think anyone will have a problem with that. Then everyone wants to say, oh, the expense of the bridge. You know what, really and truly, you know what I really believe? I believe DART will absorb half of that cost just because it will benefit him too.
Mm-hmm.
If you connect one of the richest districts in Cayman to the newest developing area in Cayman, which is bound to be another rich area, it makes 100% sense. And then I don't like the fact that the North Sound, you can't do that because it's gonna interfere with the plane ramp, with the extension of the airport. That's not true because one, the bridge will be far enough from the airport road, and I mean, like, everyone that likes to dismiss my idea with the bridge, they're wrong, man. And if they want to see proper infrastructure, start with that bridge. Trust me. Anyhow,
all right. Thank you very much. We do have another caller on the line.
I would just say, Sandra, very quickly in relation to the callers, that he started with, I think, a bit of a premise that is not applicable to Cayman. He started with the observation that, there's a 7-mile bridge connecting. I think that connects Marathon to the Lower Keys, to Key West eventually and stuff. That exists because they didn't have any other choice.
Right.
There is no land bridge anywhere connecting that.
Yeah.
So when you're faced with no other choice, then it's clear that you have to make some decisions.
There would have been a different justification and for it to begin with. So we do have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Sandra. Good morning, Mr. Panton.
Morning. Just keep in mind that we do have several callers on the line. Thank you.
Hello. Good morning, Mr. Sandra. Good morning, Mr. Panton.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
Yes, sir. This is a different Jonathan than the one previously. This idea, which certain people keep banding about, he tried to make the point that this proposed extension of the runway into the North Sound would not be a conflict with the idea of a bridge over the North Sound, when it clearly would be when you talk about safety parameters. But that beside the point, this individual is trying to suggest a bridge over the North Sound, which would include incredible amounts of money, public money. You can put the lovey-dovey thing about DART paying for half of it out the window. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What Cayman needs as it pertains to that is in the major bottlenecks, we need vehicular overpasses. That is the necessary and only real viable solution. I don't know where these people get their ideas from, but I have an idea, and I'm not going to be so rude as to suggest the actual source where they're pulling it from. Beyond that, I have to ask Mr. Panton, to be honest with you, do you not know the quality of character and or the lack thereof of those who you chose to align with in the name of your good intentions for Cayman? And I personally can tell you that I saw what was going to happen down the road as a result of aligning yourself with people who have a complete dearth of quality of character. And I'm sorry to say that I saw this kind of crap coming down the pike in our last electoral cycle. That being said, Mr. Panton, I think we all know that the reason why these people do not want to see environmental impact assessment be required necessity is because these people with these ideas, largely born out of greed, they don't care about the logistical needs as much as they care about making themselves very, very rich. And that's a reality which can be identified. It does not take away the reality that the Cayman Islands has to have at least one other alternate route to and from the eastern districts, coming from the east to the west in the morning and going from west to east in the afternoon. But this is the real reason why, and it all points to the undue and illegitimate influence which is allowed to sway trajectory in the Cayman Islands. And if we do not look at that and attack this issue from its core root, then we are going to continue along with these issues which stand in the way of the Cayman Islands getting where the Cayman Islands and all of our people need to get. Because all we do is spend our time against this bulwark of institutionalized corruption. So we need solutions to disallow this type of malevolent behavior. And that's what we need to concentrate on.
Thank you, caller.
Not the symptom, the cause.
Thank you very much. We do have another caller in the line. Let me just ask you a quick question before we bring that caller on. The question that he asked, which a lot of people do ask me, is, the persons that you would have formed the government with. I mean, I guess you were going to probably say you didn't have a whole lot of choice, but did you see early on, as other people have predicted, and they saw that eventually those very same people would be problematic to continue working with because they didn't share your vision of, supporting the environment? They have different motives and different motivations in terms of politically or, just where they are with the country.
Sandra, I would say this. First of all, I attempted to get a balance between the two, the current opposition and the current government members, by offering them up to 4 seats on cabinet, them being the progressives at the time. They were offered 4 seats in cabinet. So they had the opportunity, and the intention was to try to get a true unity government. That was declined. And instead of, acting in the spirit of good faith and acting in the interests and for love of country, they decided to go out and start playing games about issuing press releases and all sorts of stuff. So there's that element. But there's another reality as well, which is this. The people who are involved, and I think it doesn't take a genius, a casual observer can see it. The people who have been involved in the issues, the problems that we have had, have, other than perhaps 1 or 2, all been elected before, and in fact we're part of previous governments as well. So I didn't take a brand new set of people that someone would look at and say, well, they don't have any experience, and we question this and we question that, and move forward with them. I wanted to give young Caymanians an opportunity, and some of them have met expectations. Some of them, I believe, have exceeded expectations, and some of them have definitely disappointed. There's no question about it. So, the suggestion that this was always going to end up like this, to me, isn't correct. I think when you take outside influences, when you take the corrupt activities of people in the private sector and inject that into the process in sufficient ways and quantities, then you have outcomes that are going to be difficult to predict from looking forward. So while I may have I'm sure made mistakes, and while anybody can navel gaze or armchair quarterback and say, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that, you should have done this, you should have done that. That's all well and good, but it doesn't take away the fact that all these other factors come into play as well. And the previous administrations, I've just outlined in an earlier segment of this discussion, previous administration between 2017 and 21 were involved in going after the NCA at that time as well, for similar reasons.
Right. I think the sentiment is that this group just couldn't hold it together because, they were all a bit of a hot mess, if you will. But also, these are the people that the government, that the people of the country, this is the government, so to speak, that the people elected. So what are you supposed to do? Some of them came in with an 80% voter turnout in their favor. Are you supposed to reject the decision of the people and say, no, we're not going to give Kenneth Bryan a cabinet position. We're not going to give Chris Saunders a cabinet position because they didn't win by an astonishing and astounding number. In fact, they did. So is that not the will of the people? Obviously, we're not directly voting for cabinet members.
I can tell people this much. My intention was never about putting myself in a position of having any kind of power or any kind of ego-driven approach or perspective. That anybody who knows me knows that that's completely wrong. I put every effort that I could into making the government a success, and I believe that there are many examples of our success. But at the end of the day, when you have these forces that start operating to start encouraging people, and I say that in a tongue-in-cheek way, encouraging people to step aside from government and go out there and start making comments, it's clear what the intention is, and that is to try to pursue a particular agenda which they think is more advantageous to them. And of course, as soon as I am out of the way, the borrowing starts, the vanity projects get approved, and the attacks on the real targets of things like the NCA begin. So what do you expect?
Caller, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Sandy. How are you?
Not bad. How you doing?
I'm fine. Good morning, Mr. Panton.
Good morning.
There's so many, I don't even know where to begin. But
well, let's try to keep it focused if we can on the topic, which is the NCC and the National Conservation Act.
Okay. When I heard that was earlier from earlier, correct, right? I'm trying to understand what the Premier's answer was. It was a non-answer, which I think speaks volumes. We have this level of arrogancy, which is doing nothing for our country. And just in regards to what Mr. Panton was just saying, about a lot of the people that were already in position, were already elected, or blah, blah, blah. it is true. Like, we are just constantly reshuffling the same deck of cards and expecting different results. It is such a broken record, and it is like fixing a roof where all you do is patch, and expect things to somehow evolve from that. Okay, we have done, and I commend him for trying to encourage younger people to come in. It is very discouraging because I myself, I'm very interested in making change in Cayman, but when you just, everybody's like, yeah, you talk up, and when you look behind you, nobody there. It's just all BS. And it's like, when are we going to get in our head? We have to stop being such a reactive country. We have to be proactive. The writing is on the wall. Everyone can see it. People who are not even from here can see it. And people are leaving Cayman, and Cayman is building. Who are we building for? Who is going to be there? What is our tourism product going to be when right now people come here and they can barely find a beach? It's just so many things. We have so many little fires to put out. Let me even get to education. We have so many fires to put out that I am surprised we have not burned down. Like, there are so many fires going on here in every area. Conservation, I mean, it should not even be like, it should be like, what more can we do for conservation?
Right.
Amen.
Thank you, Paula. I appreciate it.
Thank you for raising all the issues, and thank you for trying to keep us focused on things that matter.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Speaking of that point, I do want Mr. Panton, if you could address this, which is something that we have talked about before, which is back in, I'm just trying to have a look here at my notes. Back in 2017, then Premier, somebody said radio gone. So just remember, we actually have a 2-hour show now, and technically the 2 hours are over. So we're going to start to wrap things up. So yes, the radio would have ended. But just clarify something for me. Back in 2017, then Premier Sir Alden McLaughlin decided that he was going to put together a review committee. He said that's going to be set up to recommend changes to the National Conservation Law, which he said that he was outlining concerns that the landmark legislation had tipped the scales too far in favor of environmental protection. So as you rightfully said, this grouping of cabinet members aren't the first to have said something, but it looks like they might be the first to actually get further ahead than anybody else in terms of actually gutting it or making changes or whatever we're going to call it. So Mr. McLaughlin put together this, he did a budget statement back in October of 2017, insisting that his government was not abandoning his commitment to protecting the natural environment, but he said that some of the practical applications of the law had differed from what was envisaged on paper, and indicated that his government will seek to roll back the law's impact on responsible development. Now, he said he had particular issues with Section 41 and 43 of the law, which gave the National Conservation Council power to require a development or government ministry to conduct an environmental impact assessment on a major development before it was approved. Same thing basically that we're hearing now, right? And he went on to say that it impacted both government and private developers. He put this committee together, Mr. Panton, which you were a part of. Please tell us what the outcome of that committee was and what recommendations, if any, did the committee actually make to the then PPM coalition government?
Yeah, well, let me just say, I think I mentioned it earlier. From what I recall, the only thing that the former Premier, Mr. McLaughlin, said in Parliament or publicly about, well, said in Parliament anyway, was that the EIAs should not apply to government projects. But yes, he was certainly pursuing the same, and the government at the time seemed to be pursuing the same sort of approach that the current government is pursuing. Although the current government seems to be taking a, full speed ahead down the torpedoes approach, and not having any consultation with the country and not putting any substance around the process, at least not publicly. So what the previous government, led by Mr. McLaughlin, did between 17 and 21, and I think it was 2018, it was when he finally got that committee set up. They had a whole range of people, including developers, and people who were like myself, who were had significant knowledge of the legislation. Himself, the minister at the time, current Minister Seymour, they were all present. There was probably, I don't know, probably close to 30 people sitting around this table. There was about 3 separate meetings reviewing all the different points that the proponents of change to the NCA, or National Conservation Laws it then was, were putting forward. And after extensive discussions around these various points, the initiative eventually lost steam and fell away because there was no traction being gained by those people who were advocating for changes to the NCA. The strength of their arguments just simply were not there when examined under the lights of the truth and the facts. So that didn't happen. It all fell away. Now I challenge the current government to do something similar, and let's see if they have any luck with a broad discussion. And let's do it in the public's eye, because when I was working on the National Conservation Bill, one of the things that I put in that bill, and I told the rest of my colleagues that I was doing it, I put in a specific provision that council that was being given the obligation to make protections under the National Conservation Law, the National Conservation Council, that is, that had to carry out its activities in public. Now I challenge any other government, department, board, whatever. I challenge them. I challenge the minister today to change the law, change the planning and development law to require that the Central Planning Authority conducts its business in public, in the same way that the National Conservation Council is required to do by that provision in the law. Let's have some sunlight on these issues. Let's see what people's positions are, what their arguments are, and how they're arriving at decisions. And I'm not that there may be other government departments that the same applies to. Yes, transparency can be inconvenient at times. Democracy can be inconvenient, but it is still the best system that we have. So let's get this kind of transparency in decision making, which affects the interests of this country and the people of this country. Let's have it done in a transparent manner. Let's have it done out in the open, so that people, if they want to go and listen to it and see how decisions are being made, have the opportunity available to them to do that. Let's see if we get better decisions then.
Yes. Aliano says, poor-minded, electoral-based, poor politicians. Exactly, Mr. Panton. We see the vast corruption of money in politics. Let's not look too far and see how the S show America is in. Symphony of the Seas says, but to make habitual mistakes is not acceptable. That's because we not just learning these things, they're seriously constant. Inspiring says there are many ways to preserve the environment and bring progress and modernity to the country. It's time enough to get real roads and not 2 small lanes like a little town. I mean, I don't know what they mean by real roads, but I mean, you have to understand Cayman isn't a big city like America where you're going to have these massive highways, unless that's the look that y'all are going for. I mean, I think Mr. Panton said you have to decide what you want.
That's exactly right. But the people of the country should be making that decision, not some special interest directing the politicians what to do. because the special interests are going to be acting in their interest. Their profit motives are going to dictate what the eventual outcome is. That shouldn't be the case. It should be the people of this country who have a clear idea and who tell the country, who tell any government, whichever government it is, this is what we want. This is what we want for our country. These are the aspirations that we have for our children. This is the legacy we want to leave for them.
Damien says, when a country depends on the elites and lobbyists, then government members just become puppets, and yes, men and women. It's the same people who voted get the raw deal and are driven into poverty. The middle class is being destroyed. Transparency, says Pat. Darlene says, no disrespect, but some, most, or all of our MPs get reelected and elected. They have a disease, hard-headed, don't care. They do what they want, how they want, when they want it, act as if our government money only belongs to them alone or only, and it doesn't matter what our people tell them what is best. They ignore it, turn a blind eye, and avoid them completely. Well, I mean, Darlene, you have to have accountability. So when you have major decisions like this, for example, that are happening, just like with the port, I agree with your hand that the community, the country sent a very clear message in 2019 to the progressives. And the reason why they were not able to take back the government is because they were not listening to the people as it relates to the building of the port. So, you know, the elected officials have to understand that they work for us, not the other way around. And so when you're not happy with their performance, you have to take steps to remove them from office. And of course, that the only real way that we can do that at the moment is every 4 years at the polls. The biggest issue I have going into the election is the lack of real alternatives. I mean, I'm not trying to disparage anyone, but when we see the likes of, you know, I'm not going to even call any names, but let's just say that some people were able to win last time by a landslide because look at who was running against them. People who can't even hold a job, who are in court for not paying child support, who can't string a proper sentence together. How are they going to be an alternative to someone in there right now who isn't really performing or listening to the people? So we, as I have said previously, we need people who love this country first and foremost, who have good ideas, who can work cohesively with other people. Sometimes it's not even other people that you like, but put aside all of that, come together, work for the betterment of this country, and have something to offer, have a track record that we can say, you know, you have demonstrated, whether it is in your professional life, your community work, something. You've got to be able to bring something to the table that speaks to your level of commitment to changing the course of where this good ship Cayman is headed. Denver says, thank you. The special interest people must be removed from driving our politicians and certain interest projects in our islands. Ms. Darlene says our people vote them in, so they must listen to our people. But Ms. Darlene, that isn't happening. Now, for the sake of, I mean, we know they listen to the show. They're hearing the show. Let me put it that way. They're not listening in terms of necessarily their actions. I wanted to play a video that has been in circulation. We're actually going to share this on social media, where our young people, the younger generation, have taken the time to speak out on this subject, and they have shared the following.
Support the National Conservation Law.
My name is Noah Booker, and I support National Conservation Law.
I support the 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 National Conservation Law.
We support the National Conservation Law.
I support the National Conservation Law.
I support the National Conservation Law.
I support the National Conservation Law.
So, young people have taken the time to put together a little social media video showing that they support the National Conservation Law. The question is, the powers that be, are they actually listening to what the people have to say? These are young voters. They care about the environment. They care about this country. Every single time, polls are done and the question is asked, what do you care about the most? Our young people are saying they care about the environment. That's a real area of concern because it is going to directly impact their future, their opportunities, opportunities in business, in this community, their ability to be able to live on this island, which is relatively low lying. They care about these things. Are the powers that be actually listening? We don't know because they've not ever addressed it. They've never, the one answer that they've given is, less than a response. So all I can tell you is it's difficult to know where we stand. Premier Panton?
Will they listen? Yes. If your voices are loud enough and your voices are consistent enough, they'll be forced to listen. But how do we fix the system? We need election finance reform. That's one of the significant ways of fixing the problems that we have, of minimizing the corrupt influencing that goes on at times, and also trying to make sure that we get good quality representatives who are there for the right reasons, and not just because this is the only opportunity they've had in life to have a decent job. I really don't want to say a lot more than that. I believe fundamentally in democracy. I believe in the right of people, of the people of the country to elect who they want to elect. But we definitely need better systems in place, better safeguards, better guardrails to make the system work better for the greater and the greatest number of our people in this country, and not working seemingly more so for the special interest.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and end the show there. I know I did say I had a hard 9:30. It turns out the case that I'm supposed to be going to doesn't look like it's happening. It's nowhere in the cause list today. So we'll try and chase that matter up, but we will continue to monitor and report on our site, the McKeeva Bush rape trial. Folks continue to obviously read that. I'm not going to have any discussions outside of what's written on it at this time. Once the trial is over, then we will have a full show dedicated to giving you all of the details of exactly what has transpired. I want to thank Mr. Panton for coming on the program yet again. Really staying focused on this issue, which obviously he's most concerned about, the changes that are being proposed that seem to be coming down the pipeline. The irony of it is that the Premier did say that something is obviously happening by way of changes, because she said that within 7 days it was being sent to the legal drafters, and then she was going to be asking Mr. Alden, Sir Alden, when he could put it on the agenda for them to meet in Parliament. No mention at all in her timeline of a public consultation, which is very, very concerning. But the people have to galvanize themselves. If this is something that you're against, then you have got to be prepared to do what you think is the right thing to do.
Sandra, you just reminded me of a curious comment that was made, talking about approaching the speaker to see when it could go on the agenda. You, under the normal process, the normal constitutional process involves the publication of a bill at least for 28 days notice before it comes to Parliament. So it sounds curious as to the suggestion of approaching the speaker about when it could go on the agenda. Anyway, let's hope there's nothing in that. But I want to thank the young people who did that video. I recognize some of the faces, I think, but it doesn't matter whether I recognize them or not. What we all should recognize is that those young people those people, those Caymanians, they're the ones that have more invested in the future in this country than you or I have, and many of us who are older than them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Thank you very much.
it should be our obligation, it should be our duty to make sure that we provide them with opportunities that we've had, with experiences that we've grown up with the right to live in a country that resembles what we have grown up in and enjoyed. So I want to thank them very much, and I can tell you they are the reason that I continue with these arguments and these discussions and these, this determination to try to make sure the right thing gets done in this country, because too many times people are prepared to sacrifice the interests of the youth in this country to ensure that their own prosperity is fulfilled. That is not where I'm coming from. I'm trying to make sure that they have the same right and the same ability and the same opportunity to enjoy a Caymanian way of life and to prosper in their own country that we've had. So thank you to all of them. I truly appreciate, and I want all young people to be engaged in this, because this is, I mean, aside from the fact we haven't even talked about the reality that, and I sometimes don't like talking about it, but the reality that the kinds of impacts and the kinds of issues impacting our natural environment are a part of, and in some cases directly the cause of, this existential risk of climate change that we're facing. So we're doing this to them. We're destroying the world so that we can drive our own vehicles and make money off these massive projects and whatnot, irrespective of the interests of the young people. Anyway, let's have a better world. Let's have a world that looks at things through a sustainable lens, which is seeking to balance people, planet, and profit. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Just a few final comments that have come in by WhatsApp. Want to give those people an opportunity. This person says, to put it in a nutshell, the CIG leaders' push to neuter the NCA/NCC clearly demonstrates that the wishes, dreams, and aspirations of megalomaniacs take precedence over the well-being and benefit of the regular Caymanian. An applicable memory gem. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when we first practice to deceive. That was that person's comment. So thank you very, very much. Somebody sent something on the bridge, Skyway in St. Pete, saying this goes over the port of Tampa. I reached out to the NRA to see if they could provide anything about the bridge idea, and they've actually sent something back. So Jordan, new show time is actually 7:30 to 9:30. We've reduced the show as of this month down to a 2-hour show instead of a 3-hour show, so that I can try to get to court a little bit closer to being on time, which is what I'm going to do now. Garrett says, I think you need to make this a 3-hour show again. Oh my gosh. We literally just changed it, folks. 2 hours. I fancy that in most instances, especially because we're always going into overtime anyway, 2 hours should be sufficient time to get a lot of topics at least partially discussed. And of course, there's always tomorrow, God's willing. But there won't be a tomorrow, because for tomorrow's program, we actually will have no show. We are going to be at Health City, Cayman Islands, grabbing some footage, which we will then share on Friday's show about all of the interesting things that they have going on at their new location there in Cayman Bay. And just FYI, we've got a couple of guests coming up next week, my apologies. The NRA is booking the Minister of Roads, which is Mr. J. Ebanks, to come on. I don't have the exact details of what he's going to be talking about, but he will be joining us at some point next week. We also have the RCIPS. Kaboom! Finally, after all these years, the RCIPS will be coming on the program. So that'll be next week as well. And, we have open invitation always to these government agencies. We try to work with them because, trust me, we're all on the same page when it comes to crime prevention, crime management, helping the good people of this country live in as safe an environment as possible. So we always try to support the RCIPS when they're getting it right. So they will be here, hopefully one of the available days next week as well. So thank you all again for tuning in to the program. We appreciate you doing so. Thank you to Mr. Paul Rivers. Hey, Mr. Paul says, thanks, Sandy and Mr. Panton, for your valuable clarification on this topic. Very insightful information. Now, someone reached out to me. I'm trying to find the message because sometimes I get so many messages, and they wanted to have some of the young people come on the program and talk about why this is important to them. And whoever you are that reached out to me, I'm sorry, I can't remember. Message me again, please, because we'll make time for you guys on next week's program as well. One day next week, we can have the young people come on and have their say. So lots of people have had their say. If you want to join this conversation on the program, please reach out to me. I think most people know how to reach me. Email tips@caymanmallroad.com. Multiple phone numbers, 936-2626. My personal number, 324-1612. I know a lot of you have that and message me there anyway. Okay. This person says, you soon get Juju on too, laughing out loud. She has an open invitation. As premier of this country, we want to hear from you. We want to hear what these supposed changes are, and we would invite you to come on the program. And I promise you, we do not bite. Somebody says, Dan Scott meets the criteria, but Juju rules the donkeys in the Brac. Do nothing in the Brac, do nothing, nothing will change. Ay. All right, folks. Politics right around the corner for the next election. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Mr. Panton. Have you made a decision yet? I know the last time somebody asked you, you said you were still waiting on your lovely wife to give you the green light. Has anything changed since then?
She changed 2 appointments with me to sit down and discuss it. So I'm gonna pin her down for the 3rd time now.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, do keep us, no pressure, but do keep us updated on what your future, I guess your future looks like in terms of the world of politics. We'll definitely be interested in that.
Either way, in the meantime, we'll continue fighting for the best interest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a very, very important
Caymanians, in particular, those young Caymanians. And please do, if I can help in any way, I would love to see a panel of young people come on and talk about issues in Cayman, things that they're concerned about, because they're who we are here. Who do we live for? We live for our children.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? We live to create opportunities for our children. We sacrifice to do that all day long.
Yeah.
And if I have to have headaches every day, I will continue to fight for the best interest of the people, the children of this country.
Yep.
Thank you again, Sandra.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
God
it.
bless Cayman and God bless everybody. Stay safe.
All right, folks. Thank you again to Mr. Panton. Thank all of you for tuning in to the program as usual. So we'll be back on Friday at 7:30 a.m. To 9:30. And until then, please be safe. All right. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.